Coach Dad here, and I'm going to show you a very unique in-game situation where your opponent only has one king left and you're left with just only one king and one rook. And I want to let you know that it is possible, it is very possible to checkmate one king with only one rook. Now the way that we set up this board is that you're left in a situation, and the most common thing that I see students do all the time is they move the rook here and they start checking the king, and the rook comes back over here, and we go back over here and we try to check the king again, and we just keep on going back and forth. And there's no way of trapping the king, there's no way of checkmating the king by just checking the king endlessly in the middle of the board. Eventually it'll turn into a tie, and the person with one rook could have thought, hey, I could have won that point. I could have actually won this game. Let me show you what the end of this will look like whenever we will checkmate this king. We'll have to put the king at the end of the wall, trap him there, and then the rook will move down and we'll say check. We'll put the king in check, and if the king can't move side to side, and I'll put these chips right here to show the spaces that the king cannot move to. The king cannot move to two of these squares because the rook is checking him on those squares. And also the king cannot go to these three squares because two kings can never be right next to each other. So we're going to just focus on this. This here is a checkmate because the king is in check and he cannot get out of check in any position. So this is what the end is going to look like. The first thing they need to worry about, and they need to really think about, is first off, which side do you want to check the king on? You could choose any side that you want. You could choose this row, you could choose this row, this file right here, or this empty file, or this rank right here. Now for this video, I'm going to show you how to checkmate the king by pushing him back on this rank right here. We're going to just push him back down here. We're going to just checkmate him, make sure that he cannot escape, not get away. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to build a wall. The rooks are very strong because they can build walls that prevent the king from moving to certain parts of the board. So we're going to put the rook right here, build this wall, and now the king cannot walk here. The king is not gonna ever going to go this way. As long as we keep this wall right here, we're just gonna prevent the king from going this way. Now we're forcing him to the row that we're trying to checkmate him on, okay? And afterwards, he's gonna probably move something like this, and then we're gonna keep this wall here. He's gonna move side to side. He's not gonna move back for us. So we're just going to move our king. Now, important thing about the king is that you need to set up a landmine. You need to set the trap for the king. You are never going to step in front of the king in order to push him back with this rook. So let me show you why. Because if I push, I need to make sure that the black king, the opponent, needs to step in front of the king 2 squares away. So we count 1, 2. Once the black king comes up here, we can push the king back. Remember, the king cannot run to these 2 squares. He's not going to run side to side anymore because the rook is checking these squares. So I'm going to put 2 chips right there to show that the king cannot move there. And he cannot run to either of these 3 squares because 2 kings cannot be right next to each other. So you want to set the landmine. The landmine is the most important thing. So you're never going to step in front of the king in order to push him back. So what we're going to do now is going to just push this king back by pushing this rook down. So let's do this again. So once I come down here, the king has to move back. All right, he has to move back. All right, now we're gonna put the king just to chase our opponent's king. So we're gonna just chase him. We're just gonna make sure that we're 1 square off in front of him. Remember, we're not gonna step in front of him. We want him to step in front of us. So now the chase is going to continue. The black king is going to keep on going. The black king is going to go. Gotta watch out now. This is really important. Do not lose your rook. Once the king get to the rook, or right next to the rook, you just move the rook all the way to the other side. We have to worry about the rook safety. Now the rook safety is really important. We're just gonna move the rook all the way to the other side. It's gonna take the king about 5 moves to get there anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 moves just to even capture the rook. So the king is really slow. So he's not gonna do anything to the rook as long as you make sure that the rook safety is all the way over here. Now afterwards, the king is going to go here. More than likely, the king is going to go there, and he's going to try to go back and chase the rook again. Since it is your turn, since you are playing white, you are not going to step in front of the king. This is a really next important move. You are not going to step in front of the king, because remember, if you just step in front of the king, then it'll just go back and forth just like this. You want him to step into your landmine. So it's white's turn. It's white's turn, and we have to do something about this. We have to find a way to get the king to move in front. This is really special. I call it the most important, unimportant move in chess, where it looks like it's not doing much, but is doing something. And this move is called the delay. The delay is when you just take this piece right here, you're gonna make a move where it'll stay in the same row, and you just move it 1 square, just so that you can force your opponent to make a move on his or her side. So I'm just gonna move this rook as white. As white, I'm just gonna move this rook here and forcing black to make a move now. So black could choose to either jump in front of the landmine, and then we could push it down, or it'll just keep on running away and we'll just chase it. Now we got our rhythm back. We're just gonna keep on chasing the black king. And it sounds great. Now he steps into our landmine. The moment he steps into a landmine, we push it back. We push it back with the rook. Remember, the king cannot go to these 3 squares because 2 kings cannot be right next to each other. Once we push this rook down, the king then has to move again. So now we're gonna do it one last time. Oh, we got the king now on this row. In this position, we're going to keep our rook here. We're going to make sure the rook is doing its job. We're going to bring our king into action. Remember, when I move the king up, I'm not moving it in front of the other king. Now I'm just going to move it here, and then this king is going to run away, and we're going to chase it down. This king is going to run away. We're going to chase it down. Watch out. This king is now attacking, or is now putting this rook in danger. We're just going to move this rook all the way to the other side so that it'll be safe. Worry about rook safety. Now this king is going to try to just go back and go towards the rook, and you have to watch out. The king is not going to jump in front anymore. Instead, we're going to play, guessed it, it's called the delay. We're just going to move the delay. We're going to move the delay, forcing this king to make its move, and the chase begins. Remember, you are not stepping in front of your opponent's king. Now when the king lands in the final landmine, you can go for the final checkmating move. Do you see it? Yes, you guessed it right. Move the rook to g1 is checking the king. Yes, it is checking the king. Can the king get out of check? No way. The king cannot run to any of these squares because this king is guarding these 3 squares, and this rook is guarding both of these squares.